Greetings, internet world. You're in the Beat Sessions, your place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's talk about The Last Dinner Party and their record From the Pyre. They released that on October 17th. This is the second studio album for the British quintet and their follow-up to 2024's critically acclaimed Prelude to Ecstasy, which debuted at #1 on the UK albums chart and was also the UK's biggest first-week selling debut in 9 years, receiving a nomination for the 2024 Mercury Prize as well. The momentum has been rolling since day one for this band, with a volatile journey of highs and lows that often accompanies this rapid onset of success, but their creative powers are all the more heightened for it. From the Pyre is a title that speaks to the resilience these women have displayed through this tumultuous ride, the cleansing rebirth of a phoenix rising from the ashes. The Pyre is appropriately symbolic on many levels for this band. At its most base is the idea of destruction, with the fire representing the outside forces that include those who allege they were industry plants after they signed with Island Records before ever releasing a single, to those who misconstrued quotes taken out of context that led to online vitriol, and honestly, just the general bullshit that goes along with being an all-female act in what is still a relatively male-dominated industry. The thing about these people is that they forget that the fire might visibly be the most significant part of the ritual, but it's the transition of the body, the spirit that is released by those flames, that is the main focal point. The Pyre is a place that symbolizes rebirth, as well as a communal gathering point that reinforces the bonds between family and friends. From the Pyre is a record that showcases the strength of the creative bond that has been forged by these women, and it dispels any doubt that they know how to rock. It's a title that appropriately captures not only the embodiment of their spirit, but also alludes to the different creative angles they were looking to take with this effort. From the Pyre cast its spells in the shadows, a record that lead singer Abigail Morris says is, quote, a lot darker, more serious, and aware of the state of the world, end quote. The titles alone capture this, with songs like Inferno, The Scythe, and This Is the Killer Speaking, which is definitely a highlight for me with its jarring sonic shifts. The minatory language is ubiquitous throughout, combining vivid biblical and mythical imagery and metaphor with character-led stories that venture into the shallow graves of past relationships. And I also love the way that the album artwork serves as a fantastic visual companion for all of this. Morris went on to say that, quote, I think it's tongue-in-cheek sometimes and a bit wry, which is the way we approach the world, having that balance of absurdity and deep emotion. Opener Agnes Day brilliantly exemplifies this dynamic, balancing sharp imagery with wit that may be even sharper, with lyrics like "'Twas on the banks, the Ohio, one kiss and I was disemboweled, and your chattering teeth and my shuddering spine. You took me on top the mahogany chairs in the kitchen. The pigeons were witches. They whispered, you'll be mine for a time. Was that enough to make you come? Am I enough to make you stay?" It's the longest track on the record, a bold move that confirms their fearless ambition, not just lyrically, but also for what the album hopes to achieve sonically. Their debut, Prelude to Ecstasy, is a more immediate and pop-friendly record, and there's a sense that the primary ambition of From the Pyre is to push the boundaries of that foundation into more experimental territory. Morris's voice is stunning, powerful, and melodic, but I will argue that there are a few moments where the writing doesn't quite match her prowess. And I think the same can be said of the adventurous song structure. It's one of the record's big strengths, balancing big moments with plenty of nuance, but it does become a bit of a hindrance in the back half. And more on that in a moment. But the gloaming allure of this record matches the themes well, differentiating it from their debut and adding a bit more weight to comparisons of artists like Kate Bush and Suzy Sue, which I think is fair and it's flattering to say as well. I think think a major part of the band's appeal is hearing these influences, as well as the operatic power of Queen and the Baroque stylings of bands like the Beatles, the Zombies, the Left Bank, and even newer, the Arcade Fire with a record like The Suburbs. It's impossible to ignore these sounds of progressive rock on this thing, albums like Thick as a Brick or Tommy, while glam rock is in full force as well, paying homage to legends like Mark Bolan and David Bowie, but also reveling in the crossover styles of artists like Blondie and Prince and even Lady Gaga. And I mention her because that pop sensibility is a big part of what makes The Last Dinner Party so damn good. There is no denying the sounds of ABBA in their music. And in bringing all of these sounds together, they have molded something that is uniquely their own. And their flair for the dramatic makes them even more irresistible. The album was produced by Marcus Dravs, a logical choice considering his work with Arcade Fire, on some of their best records, I might add, as well as his work with Florence and the Machine, Wolf Alice, Bjork, and Brian Eno, to name a few. Dravs was recruited after James Ford was diagnosed with leukemia and could not commit to the project. And I'm happy to say that at the writing of this piece, that his cancer is in remission. I think Dravs did solid work here, but I really wish they could have pursued this album with Ford. He has an established relationship with the band, producing their debut and performing most of the drum arrangements on that record. He contributed to the writing of 3 of these songs on From the Pyre, and given the record's gothic leanings, I think his recent outings with Depeche Mode on Memento Mori and Fontaine's DC's Romance would have been perfect in helping the band fully realize this project. There are a few moments that miss the mark, particularly in the back half of the record with tracks like Woman is a Tree, which Ford did contribute to on the writing. A song that has the potential with the intensity of the vocals, but it just never gets past a simmer. Sail Away is a pretty piano ballad, but it fails to build into anything memorable, and it almost just feels like it could serve as an interlude between 2 epic tracks on a rock opera. And then there's Inferno, the final track. It's a good, breezy pop rock track, but it's not what its title may suggest. And it's unfortunate because the penultimate track, The Scythe, is a banger that creates great momentum leading into the close, and I feel like that gets lost. It's these moments where the pursuit of grandiosity seems to get in the way of writing music that has more of an impact, that's more direct. Plus, lead guitarist Emily Roberts can absolutely shred, and I selfishly would have loved to see them rock a bit more on this record, the way they do in the first half, like on Count the Ways and Second Best. I love that they're in a creative hotspot, but I think this album could have ultimately benefited from a bit more time to incubate. It opens with Agnus Dei, explodes with immediacy. Jaunty, mid-tempo, finds middle ground between the comfort of a rocking chair and a dance floor groove with a great lead riff that continues to serve as a bridge in the song. It's a track that captures the before, during, and after of a relationship, pondering if love is even worth it when rock and roll provides all the sustenance that one needs. The verses operate with a mellow groove and a bit of like a doo-wop sheen that I noticed. And then it's bright and explosive in the pre-chorus with a catchy string element that responds to soaring vocals. And this all heightens the energy of the song going into the chorus. It does keep a standard structure, and it's not as adventurous as some tracks, but I love the big rock and coda with solid guitar play. Count the Ways is your second track. This is one that James Ford contributed to. Comes out with a slower tempo, moody blues guitar, and a rollicking bass lick with brilliant thick tone. The pre-chorus works into lighter, minimal territory with a great arpeggiated riff, and the chorus finds brighter territory with a great pop influence, and I love the jarring shift back into the moody verses. It's pretty straightforward as well, kind of like their work on their first record, but it moves with captivating fashion and it keeps the energy rolling off of Agnus Dei. I do like that from a continuity standpoint. Your third track is entitled Second Best. Opens with a soaring choir vocal element before Abigail's vocals become isolated with a pensive piano element that sparkles with the intermittent harmonies that sporadically play around it. Then the guitar hits and the rock and roll energy takes hold. a mood of uncertainty spilling forth in the arpeggiated guitar, the minimal rhythm and bits of piano. Then the track takes off, led by a grinding lead guitar, while it navigates serene, nuanced segments that bring it back to that driving rock and roll energy. This is a big highlight for me. I love this song. It's where the album begins to move towards more experimental territory, and I think they absolutely nail it with this track. This is The Killer Speaking as your fourth song, another highlight for me, another song that Ford helped pen. I love the gentle frenzy of the piano that fades in to lead this one off. Minimal, down-tempo percussion creates the foundation for a lumbering bass lick and flashes of guitar that play with a variety of chord structures and tones in a brooding atmosphere. Then, out of nowhere, the drums usher in a light, pop-driven chorus with tinges of ABBA. There's just no denying it. I love the eerie string textures that work into the second verse. Then there's a middle eight that opens minimally with piano and vocals that quickly intensify, but it settles once more for a final turn of the chorus to finish, and it's one that flourishes with strings and piano to close. Rifle is your fifth track. It leads out with a ballpark-style organ that is quickly accompanied by Abigail's vocals. Arpeggiated guitar builds in after about 30 seconds, followed shortly by drums that are immediate in increasing the tempo of the track. It builds as though it's going to burst, but it opts to settle back into a second mid-tempo verse. Throughout the song, the momentum builds right before the chorus, which goes heavy with a great stop-and-go structure. There's big howling harmonies with the heavy rock drive, and then everything stops for Abigail to sing solo lines with a pinched vulnerability. The middle eight is minimal and features French vocals and piano with big open notes, and it rolls right back into that big chorus to finish. Your sixth track is Woman is a Tree, and I feel like this is where the album starts to hit kind of a rough spot. Begins with the open note harmonies that utilize moments of excitable melodic swells. Loose drums and ominous synths work in to enhance the tension building in the song, balanced by gently strummed, spaced out acoustic guitar notes that give this one a Renaissance folk feel. Jethro Tull feels conjured on this one quite a bit. Guitar textures continue to develop the return of the vocal harmonies, giving this one even more of a Renaissance feel. Big soaring harmonies pierce the murkiness of the track and as it ventures through a dark mythical atmosphere. And I love the way it remains minimal in its structure while navigating so much depth with all those vocal textures. However, I feel like it does fizzle, unfortunately. It never quite boils the way I wanted it to. I Hold Your Anger is your seventh track. I dig the way this one comes out with just piano, vocals, and the softest touch of walking bass that makes the fabric of it just right. The piano lick is so good. This piece feels inspired by countless bands in popular culture, like it could easily belong in a number of catalogs over the last 60 years. Guitar textures build in to initiate a swell in the music that has just a hint of country, taking the song into a jaunty groove with icy strings and tom-led percussion. The drums evolve with the snare to bring the rock and roll element to life, before the track fizzles to begin another rebuild and a coda where the guitar takes control with big vocals to finish. Your eighth track is entitled Sail Away. It's another great piano piece, but I like the somber pop influence and the perfect touch of jazz that's there. The play on the keys makes it feel like it's something for the stage. The tempo increases after just about the 1 minute mark into the chorus. The mellows quickly transition into the next verse. The song remains minimal for its duration, with the vocal harmonies taking hold of the track to initiate the coda, and with the music swelling to crescendo to finish. And I got to say, as much as I love the piano and a lot that's going on, I feel like this is a song that could have benefited with a bit more development for its own sake, and honestly for the sake of the rest of the album. Your ninth track, your penultimate track, is entitled The Scythe. Droning synths shift subtly between two notes to lead this one out, with the slightest touch of woodwinds to bring this one to life. The synths almost sound like woodwinds as well, and they mimic the melody of the vocals when Abigail begins to sing. It's feathery and delicate until the guitar hits with a slow-paced tremolo that has the effect of a droning note. I really love the guitar play here. Creates this perfect murmur as the instrumentation develops around it to unfold into a breezy up-tempo chorus. The strings in the second verse are a highlight, a testament to their awareness of nuance in composition. I think it's a big step for them on this record. The middle eight is solid, beginning minimally with open piano notes and vocals, and then incorporating pizzicato strings and drums that develop to lead into a final turn of the chorus. There's some solo work through the coda before it mellows into breezy acoustic guitar, strings, and vocals to finish. And then your 10th and final song is entitled Inferno. Opens with a brief piano lick before a drum fill ushers in a light, groovy track that balances rock, folk, and pop. The development of the chorus is pretty solid, with evolving layers of vocal melodies and harmonies, culminating with a hook built on the track's title. And I particularly enjoy the vocals when they sing in the morning, in the evening. I keep trying, Lord. I keep trying, Lord. I'm trying. I think that's like vocally the best part. There's a brief breakdown where piano, bass, and harmonies lead the build back to finish with the Inferno hook. I will say that the ambition of From the Pyre is admirable and wholly entertaining, with an exciting follow-up from a band that is confident in forging their creative path. I appreciate their thoughtfulness in trying to evolve what they established with their debut, creating songs that serve the album while remaining entertaining on their own. It's a cohesive collection that expands their sound, weaving through a variety of influences while taking several risks. And they don't all hit pay dirt, but it's the effort they display that makes them exciting, that makes future efforts exciting. They are out to prove that they can do it all, and From the Pyre is a solid step in that right direction. Aside from the way that a couple of those tracks fizzle in the back end of the playlist, overall this is a pretty solid record. I do regret, I wish James had been able to produce, because I know it's just conjecture, there's no way of ever knowing, but I do think that he could have helped them put a solid effort together overall from start to finish. I think that B-side could have been more rewarding potentially with him at the helm. I'm going to give this thing a 7.5 out of 10. I definitely would encourage all of you to check it out. I don't think it's quite as good as Prelude to Ecstasy, but again, I think that's also a byproduct of challenging themselves and taking some risks and learning how to navigate that for future efforts. And I think that makes this album super exciting. I am really excited to vinyl please this thing too. I already picked it up at the record store. It sounds great. The album artwork is super fun. Check it out. And I hope you enjoy this record. I hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, drop a super chat, do all the things to help me blow this project up in 2025, and stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.